Yes, good evening and welcome to this special look at what is happening in our beloved country, Sierra Leone, wherever you are. My name is Dr. Coco Feli. I have a PhD upside down from the University of Nothing going on. I is a proud Sierra Leonean living in the plantation of the West. That doesn't make me better than my brothers and sisters who are still facing the consequences of the ongoing sagas in our beloved country. A lot have happened the first couple of days between the ruling party as a PP led by President Madabio and the APC under the chairmanship director of the life chairman, former president Anes by Koroma. The APC is the largest opposition party in parliament. And it speaks volume. Any opposition party in any country is deemed to be a government in waiting, and as such to represent the critical voice of a nation. For those of you who have not followed the development in Sierra Leone, we are away from home, but our hearts bleeds and cries for what we are seeing happening in Sierra Leone. Elections are long over. Unfortunately, the saddest saga arises in people living in the plantation of the West or other places in our comfort zones as we continue smiling and suffering in whatever little consequential consequences we find ourselves. But at the same time, we are the direct instigators of what is happening, sadly, in our beloved Sierra Leone because of our selfishness. There is one tape audio that I want to deal with. The audio is by an unknown pastor who seems to be a critical voice of Sierra Leone, in my opinion. Unfortunately, I don't know him. He didn't say his name. All I know is a brother from another mother, and he had Sierra Leone at heart. But let me cut up the chase. In as much as I agree 150% on his take that the SFPP and the APC are at the center of the continuous sagas of Sierra Leone since independence. But let's forget about historical past, because if we want to blame the issues, we can even forgive SFPP, Sierra Leone People's Party, and the All People's Congress would take it right to the original heart of political social corruption, that is in Buckingham Palace, with the signature of Queen Elizabeth, with the signature of the United Nations. But the whole source starts the Berlin Conference, where Africa was dished like a turkey, and we still allow us to be chopped like turkey. We can no longer blame the British colonialism or the white person. We have to start looking at ourselves as Africans, global Africans. There are those in the mindset who prefer to call themselves black in the plantation world of the diaspora. Even though President Obama, who was the president of the United States, was reduced to being an African and a non-American, even though he was born in America. Those are rude awakening that no matter what we are, we can be blacks, we can be African American, we can be African Canadian, we can be black British, we can be Wakandans. But until Africa is respected, no one of us will be respected. I digress. Let me bring you to Sierra Leone. Even the name is confusing. May God inject some bold, critical-minded political leaders or citizens who will say enough of this garbage name that was imposed on us by a Portuguese. But let me deal with this tape that I want to talk about, dealing with the recent chaos of tear gassing the APC office. Well, let me say this clear. The APC is in opposition. The SLPP is the present governing party. An opposition party can agree to disagree, but they cannot, I repeat, they cannot obstruct the government agenda of governing accordingly. The argument should be centered in the House of Parliament, where they are elected to sit and do any nonsensical nonsense. Any opposition party or anybody that triggers and incite public unrest and national security is committing a national crime against the nation that is Sierra Leone. I have a beef on why the APC elected parliamentarians couldn't stay and muscle things in parliament, but have to call on ordinary innocent people to congregate at the party office, incite violence, provoke police officers, and do all kinds of unwarranted things and then pretend to be peaceful. Let's call a spade a spade. It is wrong that the police officers overreacted, but we see that in America, we see that in the UK, we see that in France. Police officers in uniform are not serving and protecting anywhere, especially when it comes to black people, because the doctrine of policing is at the heart of colonialism. And until those mandates are changed to serve the African child, it is not the person in the uniform, it's the uniform that is carrying the person. So police, I love law enforcement. I am a law-abiding person. But the doctrine of policing have been one of bullying. And when a bully is given an opportunity to bully, they will bully. It has to be investigated. But the APC should be blamed. I'll repeat, it should be blamed for continuously instigating and trying to prevent due process. Agree to disagree in Parliament. We see it in Britain. We see the Brits, how they've been parabolating. We've seen in America how the Democrats are wrestling with Donald Trump. They did not call on citizens to demonstrate on the street. That's nonsensical nonsense. It is a pretext to prevent, in my critical opinion, the commission of inquiry into unaccountable abuse of process and funds of the national cake. That's the bottom line, in my opinion. But let me deal with these, Pastor. Bear with me, but we need to say things. Once again, if you're just listening to this gibberish that I'm saying, my name is Dr. Coco Fele. I'm a comic. I have a PhD upside down from the University of Nothing going on. I am fearlessly and critically honest. I belong to no political party. I belong to no fraternity, ethnic group. Because all these ethnic groupings, all these fraternity, secret societies, be it upline or the so-called lodges, the mosques, the churches are all continuously helping to instigate, divide, and conquer, and to mess up the African child. Let me play the audio of this brother.
Well, praise God. This issue where they go now in Sierra Leone, you know, so usually I don't allow political comments in this forum, but you know, it's a level where we need to look at things quietly. Now, after all what's not happen, we may look and say Benjamin 3, I mean the beginning of sanity coming to Sierra Leone, at least a platform. But where I read the statements there was as a people making a Benjamin 3, I've been also already it. And our follow we begin for ask ourselves, say, what's our one for Sierra Leone go? Now why they say this, and they say this with a clear conscience. And I want for go also no say you used to make a quiet all this time. I don't get a lot of pressure for people in the talk say, oh, you're not talking nothing, you don't say nothing. I want to address this woman first way, jump and pass to Mambu. But some Mambu no respond, I'm glad we no respond because woman an aggrieved woman, a woman with suffer pain. And so as a father, we go for accommodate and we go for assimilate solitary the complaint but and find a solution to them. You know, it is true that Pastor Mambu come on a Southeast, but believe me, I'm a man of God who I trust, I believe, and I'm a party, I'm a brother. And no believe say Pastor Mambu is special love who supports President Madabi in Dubai. I don't believe that. Like I myself, no get no love for President Kuma to a level where I go watch at Dubai and not talk. Now I get a lot of flack. Titi, but I still get flack. People say me said more than they talk, I didn't say they talk. I don't just want to talk no more because for toxic. Because Sierra Leone man not tell me say we don't know what's in there happen. We sabi we know. The border we get on this is about 1967, maybe 62 na day for those stats. We then trouble are big it's possible to organize ourselves to regional clan. We not gonna business for now the small village we now a small village in Nigeria. We look at we look at national level, we are just 7 million people, maybe over 7 million people. We don't divide ourselves to foolishness. Now, I'm not able to understand how you men demand to say we will this country without Limbaman, local man, or Limbaman bill say we will this country without demand and social man. I want to talk to you about this. I want to let you know that I so believe in this regional cohesion, this national cohesion. The million investments where I ever know say I put in the Southeast is going into the millions of dollars. Go find out for let me tell you. Where the past administration allow me for operate with a lot of complaints say the Southeast go. Now I come back on this administration they the same jump plate on how they go. Simply because with the Fed development out of we own ego. It's wrong. Now, all this issue, but listen to politics show. Me, they tell you, say, I try to forget that video clip. I preach a message 2 weeks to election what I call a clash of the gods. Now, the battle for control Sierra Leone, not to physical battle. You just make yourself too long at the hands of superior forces the way they operate in this country. We know very well. And so we are declaring war on these forces of darkness that are not going to prevail in this country. Every region gets your own principality to control. The north get their own, the south get their own. And so these battles are going on. And then the religion also they come in. And I'm making a decision that could win now. But I'm glad and I want for the President Bio realize that he cannot go necessarily with outside the Inter-Religious Council. President Kaba, my late friend. I call him my friend because man, imagine, Kaba, I'm a Muslim imam. I've always been a reverend. But we got close just from Conakry up to Sierra Leone. We are talking deep things. And one of the things I appreciate that man for, he was not regional. And they were plenty of them get problems. He wasn't regional. He made sure he brought in people the way to make sure say this country work. If you qualify for working, you work. That was it. And so we continue move on. He left us institutions. Bakaba realized how much downtrodden and destroyed the police force was. He go bring Ketibulu all the way from England. Ketibulu he left with the force for good. And these men that are there today, they are part of that setting we take on that Ketibulu. Follow the soldier to the show today, me at the shame as a Sierra Leonean. At the shame. Because what you do so, not to politics this so, now exploitation. Now when Dr. Belbin begins to expectation in this country, people let's say, oh, now when a doctor I don't get money, them start in some kind of way. What's an expectation? Exploitation, now the attitude way, the attitude way they use what you get now you earn for control people them, for manipulate them for what you want, so that your business will go before. That's what is happening in this nation. It began back way in the 60s. Now I want to let you understand today what I talk to you so both SLPP and APC, you are the most guilty of all this. Both sides. Me, them born me in the north, call me what you have to call me. Them born in the south, call you what you have to call you, but you are Sierra Leonean. And so, then two political parties there, they know exactly what they do. This now revenge system and they go on so. And when SLPP come on, SLPP come on power, APC can, they go on with the same thing. And some of us don't realize it is not the way forward for a nation. We are stifling government, we are stifling growth. Now what you know, let's put that to you straight. The time when the man they go on, the man who is responsible for IMF way of putting in this country, he was here. And you know what he say? Based on what you observe, what you see. Look what the IMF is telling you right now. You cannot run this country on a polarized level. You don't work. And the responsibility of all this, you know, depend on nobody's shoulder, President Bio, now you. If you work, now you. We know the work so, now you back. And I want to let you understand, I mean, let's say this just in case you know, but I'm not saying you know. When President Kabade left governance, he makes sure say he hand over key people them to President Koma. And the guarantee is still there, because I know. And those people them, after the President Koma left power, he still works with them. Because he understands say, the system of continuity, they don't understand them. And so they go for train that pull for pass them over. But if we just can't say, well, all man go, let's bring the people like that. Let's tell you that guarantee, let's tell you what I talk about right now. The Ministry of Health, what's happened at the Ministry of Health, so that's a result of that. The facility of Ministry of Health being get, you don't count to 0.0. Because people they won't be understand the system, then pull them come up and bad, they throw it in a corner, they lie and they throw it in a corner, and nothing is happening in the Ministry of Health now, past subsistence level. And that is not the level we look for. If you continue so for we, left politics aside, our nation will suffer. I want to address the police. Me, I didn't chaplaincy, I didn't police chaplaincy till today. Waiting happen so who are with me, I not feel good, it's not good for our nation, it's shameful, it's disgraceful for Sierra Leone. Our police to you very, very clear for the way. Now, what am I saying here? The police enroll yes now for protect law and property. But then video they want to see with me, whether or not make them for them, these are visual, audio visual evidences, then for sure say the police use high-handedness na APC office. We saw the videos. And I want to show you say, me reach level I go see for myself. And these are 10 men, these are 10 officials they were respect for very, very highly in the police force. And we're supposed to protect life and property. We're supposed for the above party politics and for make sure say the nation one the way supposed for one. I want to appeal to you all. President Bio, this commission really set up so no give somebody who gets regional interest. If you ask me, Learn Religious Council gets a great school for play. Why they call it Religious Council? Now, why they talk to you so? And they talk to you as chairman of the Mission for Souls group, where I get 400 pastors that register under me. 400 churches there. So if you want some for talk about crowd, I get crowd there. And I'm also part of the Interreligious Council at executive level. Now, every minister in this country, every pastor in this country, link up with Interreligious Council. They get imam they will listen to that in council lady. So I want to let you know straight away say you cannot run Sierra Leone outside the Interreligious Council. You know the work. Akaba in wisdom, Miguel will make it put in the religious council, say, therefore handle conflict. And we are the moral guarantors of all the child they go through. Every person they work with you, they belong to an imam. The Christians belong to pastors. And we have the opportunity for them to on a daily basis. You need for bring healing in Sierra Leone, President Bill. We need for you and President Kuma, your former president. Una work together in this country for those who say we don't agree for the 1 year together. That's not make for me. We say happen in parliament and I'm going to the law he explain himself. Me not to talk outside the Bible. When I time for talk for why I want to talk about religion, I know to talk outside the Bible. I don't go take history book for bring inside Bible. In other words, the Bible and the Constitution. Say I look at Constitution. If systematically we abuse the Constitution, if systematically we depart from what the Constitution say, we not left country for beginning. Now chaos could end up now, now halala will end up now, and at the end of the day, we don't tire. If you don't remember January 6, if you don't remember the war self, how Kailan Tonobo, how Makini Tonobo, how Bo Tonobo, how Kenema Tonobo, how Freetown Tonobo, how lives then lost tire, we remember. And we are the voice of conscience. We know what they will not talk, we see that Apple will not talk. So I don't add my voice. And they break that woman with expert Pastor Mambo. Not sure you pastor. God know they help you that way. Not to say the Bible say. But those still don't talk. Me, then I don't want to talk then so why I don't talk then so. Everybody who don't mention us. So I meet them. They're not going to meet me. I am an authority here, a Bible student, a Bible custodian, and also a senior citizen in this country. I'm sure when this video clip go out, the self will say my voice don't find they don't complain, or plenty man don't complain. Hey, when you talk that thing, I show no more, you just say much, but I don't talk which I believe that the right thing. President Bill, go back to the parliament issue. Go advise people in the parliament. It cannot go the way they go on through. Let us find a common ground where we're able for operate and make sure that things go the way it's supposed to go. So at this country can move to the level we go to answer for let go. They pray for you. The issue of Pastor Mamu praying for President Bill, that's so the Bible say, that's so the mandate now they operate through what the Bible say, now they do so. So let us keep that side of the story. And we continue for pray for you, for let God open your eyes. Finally, I want to say to you, sir, your advice, I don't advise you. Be careful with people who advise you, sir. If the advice they give you, not in line with the law says, sir, no allow them for them to go ahead, sir. If they broke the law, then go ahead with this, sir. You are the man who the responsibility for the rest at your table. Take a decision. Change them. I tell them they just say if you refuse change will change you. I know what time they talk about. I saw these things coming. And the way they go so good. One more time, sir, before I left this audio, you and President Kuma need to get together. Pakaba and President Kuma, they made the talk. Many times Pakaba don't send me to President Kuma, they made the talk. Talk to you former president. Together we can solve this problem. Make this country move on. If the international community see this country together in cohesion, but continue with the forward in this country. I talk to the World Bank man over and over and over and over. And while they talk so people don't continue to finance that. They don't call anyone by one. They sabotage the talk boards. They need for you proper advice. God bless you. God bless Sierra Leone. In Jesus' name. Amen.
Well, that was the mighty voice, unfortunately, of an unnamed brother from another mother who was a critical, frank-speaking pastor. I admire him. I agree with a lot of points that he brought. But let me voice some of my critical positions on the matter. Number one, inasmuch as I have great respect for former President Koroma, no relation, we happen to attend the same government secondary school. Unfortunately, he left its trees growing in the classrooms. But let's call a spade a spade. He is a former president. He had to act accordingly. The question of Steve being the life chairman of APC, that's a APC issue. But when we all continuously keep saying, what have the present government done in a year? when we still have the main opposition adhering to a former president who still wants to rule the country, we are in a mess. It doesn't happen in the United States. It doesn't happen in Canada. It doesn't happen in the UK. It doesn't happen anywhere else but Africa. It is pathetic, and as men of God, you have to tell President Nkrumah to take a back seat. He have earned his time. He was an ordinary person. I am speaking in English so that the international so-called community that we so rely on understands, not just the Sierra Leone English. I don't call it broken English. It is Sierra Leone English. Let's be respectful for ourselves. Well, Pastor, we have to call a spade a spade. Yes, the past president and the present president need to accommodate one another. But the whole confusion, the whole torment and instigation of what is going on in Sierra Leone is due to the Commission of Inquiry. I am in Canada in this plantation. I am no better than anyone in my country. I go to bed crying and praying for my country to be better. We are tired of seeing our youths languishing. I'm a village boy. I called and spoke with people in my village. It is pathetic. It is more backward than before, to the point that they do not even have cassava sticks to grow cassava. The national dish of that country, cassava leaf. If you want to incriminate 7 million Sierra Leoneans, prepare a palatable cassava leaf, and people are not growing cassava again. They do not want to farm. When a government comes and calls for farming, it means, well, because she who feeds you control your mind, and our minds are being controlled like a vehicle. The riot that happened is a provocative, premeditated plan. If court decisions have been taken, the APC elected members of parliament can deal with the matters in parliament, can appeal the decision, and fight it in court. People are elected to act accordingly and to respect the law. But as you correctly said, my landed pastor brother from another mother, the citizens are not electing the caliber of people that are supposed to rule our nation. They are great people. One of the greatest things you said, or the advice you're giving President Mother Bio, is to be mindful of those around him. When President Ernest Nkrumah came to power, he had good intentions. He took over a very responsible government and handed him all documented facts of the nation with qualified, trained, support civil servants. I beg to differ, but that's not the case. But nonetheless, the government of the day have the right to investigate accountability, past accountability. In Ontario here, the premier-elect or the premier of the province have embarked on that. And nobody's crying witch hunt. Allow the Commission of Inquiry. If you did not steal from the people, you don't have to be worried. If your accounting book was clean, you said President Kaba handed over to President Nkrumah when he was elected documented accountability. Have APC done so? Ernest Koroma is still riding the horse. If APC cannot dethrone the chairman of the life and let him remain to be former president, then the rebranding of APC is tough. Let's face it, the APC party, I'm not a member, but I'll say it critically, frankly speaking, without hesitation, that it is hijacked by a few who refuse to tolerate a change, an innovative change. Call it what? Martha has started something that is incredible, the free education. And some of us are crying when we sit in the plantations here, our kids are going to free schools. Do the governments prepare food? When last was it the responsibility of the government to feed your own children when they are going to school? They can create facilities. As Barry White once said, get up, do something. Don't just sit down on your ass, wasting time. Sierra Leone, we are wasting time. All these elected people are not for the good of our country. But coming to the Peace Commission, the Right Honorable Pastor, my brother, religion have been the center of confusion. Religion was at the center of the war, Second World War, First World War, which was basically a European tribal war that Africans were dragged into. We fought for decorum in the world, but we are still suffering. Nonetheless, I'm a godly person and believe in God, but religious institutions continue to confuse the African child. Did I hear you say you had a council of churches of about 400 churches in Sierra Leone? What are we doing to develop the nation apart from exploiting the nation? Churches have become the fastest way to dollar making. Churches have nothing to play in a commission for peace. Yes, we do respect those institutions, but they should stay away from government. The white envelope in giving cash to all these religious leaders is one thing that the past government did in such a classic way. Why is government in Sierra Leone or in Africa giving scholarship for people to go to Mecca and controlled by the government right in the president's office? That's corruption. The Bio government should refrain from it. The First Lady should take her hands out of it. The Quran said, or the Holy Prophet Muhammad's followings in Islam, is that your sweat, your own labor, or your children's labor should take you to Hajj, not a political confused ticket. The same Arab people who are tormenting and killing our brothers and sisters and abusing them, we don't say anything. But let's stay on the point. The police officers, like in France, in Canada, in the UK, or in America, do overreact when there's a public outcry. The APC should be held responsible for triggering that nuisance and continuously continuing to trigger unsafe atmosphere in Sierra Leone. It has to stop. The churches should engage in helping to promote tranquility in our country. Stop wasting people's time with 24 hours in a church house praising and worship. The same swearing you're talking happens in religious places these days. You go to some churches, the pastors spend more time cursing the devil and swearing the enemy and doing that, whatever. That's where all these things are coming from. When people wanted to challenge Jesus Christ about a prostitute or no prostitute, he challenged all of them. Who among you is clean? Who among all of you pastors, imams, is clean? Sierra Leone and Africa are the only places that are still not talking of the Catholic sexual abuses. And when the First Lady and the President brings the law to safeguard the right of a girl child, people are making nonsensical comments. Learned lawyers, they call themselves. The Bar Association of Sierra Leone needs to wake up. The religious congregations, Muslim or Christians, need to wake up. The opposition party members need to wake up. The elected officers under the SLPP needs to wake up and realize that Sierra Leone is suffering, Pastor, as you correctly said. Sierra Leone is burning. But we believe Sierra Leone will rise from the ashes if we confront these tormentors who are making our country into a shithole and making us all shitholders. It is now or never. President Koroma should respect the fact that he is now a former president. The opposition parties should realize that they are in opposition, and the ruling party should rule and forget about making a chaotic nonsense as if it's still election. And President Bill and Madam First Lady, the Vice President, the elected members who have intentions to progress that nation, engage people. Tell your ambassadors to get out of their bunkers and engage with Sierra Leoneans. If there's one thing I give to our former presidential spokesbrother, Abdoulaye Berete, for whatever reasons, was definitely a true Sierra Leonean when it came into engaging with ordinary Sierra Leoneans whenever he traveled out of Sierra Leone as a presidential spokesperson. I give that to him. And we're challenging representatives of the SLPP, from the ambassadors, presidential advisors, and ministers when they travel outside of the country or when they are inside of the country, to engage with ordinary Sierra Leoneans. Open your ears and listen to them. The president should make it a mandate to speak to the people on a monthly basis and deal with issues of hooliganism, vengeance, ignorance of becoming the police. Everyone is vengefully attacking people. We have to control that. We've been practicing common law since independence and before independence. What is wrong with the criminal code that everybody in the Western world is afraid of? If you commit a crime, you get a record, and that record messes you up. Bring it to Africa. And the question of corruption